Recording will be sent out after today along with the material. Regarding the questions, we encourage you to ask them, and you can submit them by using the Q&A function by clicking on Meeting Tools in the bottom right corner and then choosing the Q&A function. We will answer as many questions as we can during the dedicated Q&A at the end of the webinar, but don't wait until the end to ask your questions. That's all for housekeeping, and I will hand over the stage to our SEO manager, Josef Borgström.
Hello, everyone. Welcome here. Glad to have you here. Yeah, like Henrik said, my name is Joseph, and I just wanted to properly introduce myself before we begin. So I started at BusinessWith earlier this year, but before that, I've been in the SEO industry for 10 years, working in a lot of different industries and business verticals. I was a jury member for the Swedish SEO Prize, Svenska SEO-priset, and I spoke at an SEO conference both last year and this year, in fact. And what I'm going to talk about today is a variation of what I said at that conference. So there might be references to that. So what I'll cover is basically what's happening with traditional search. I'll examine the rise of LLMs, and I'll talk a little bit about LLM tracking and how to measure your presence in tools like ChatGPT. And then we'll talk a little bit about upcoming SEO and AI initiatives from BusinessWith. And what you can expect today, I decided to call this talk or presentation what we've learned and unlearned about SEO in the age of AI, because honestly, there have been a lot of learning experiences this year. I can't stand here and claim to be a complete expert. I think few people can. But what I want to share with you is my learnings, my thought processes, and how I'm trying to balance LLM optimization with traditional SEO. And hopefully from the processes I've used, the evaluations I've made, and the sources I've leaned on, you'll find something valuable to take home with you. Sound good? Expectations low enough? Perfect. Let's get started. So working in SEO this past year have given me kind of mixed feelings. On one hand, it's exciting because the playing field has been completely redrawn. But on the other hand, it's a little bit unsettling where the methods we relied on for so long are disappearing. We're at the start of a new era where the only option is to experiment with the tools available and figure things out as we go. But there's also a positive side to this. Our competitors, everyone's competitors, face the exact same challenges. Everyone is working on with the same uncertainty, and that kind of gives me hope. Because in the middle of this chaos, there are huge opportunities, and in fact, the playing field might be more even and level now, right now, than it's been in a very long time. But let's start with the biggest concern out there. AI is supposedly replacing Google search. I think we've all heard from this dude in the last year or so. And that whole narrative about AI replacing Google search, that's not actually what's happening if you look at the data. So I wanted to share a few studies in relation to that to see what the users actually, what their behavior looks like. So Q3 this year in late August, Rand Fishkin, a very serious player in the SEO space, he released a study looking specifically at the average uses of traditional search versus AI in the past 2.5 years since ChatGPT became a thing, which kind of kickstart this whole AI adaptation society is growing into. But in the past 2.5 years, AI usage has grown about 40%. But SEO has declined by less than 1% in that same time. It's basically a flat curve. And remember that in this study, traditional search didn't just mean Google. It also included Bing, it included Yahoo, and even with those smaller players factored in, traditional search was basically untouched by AI. And even more interesting, when it came to heavy users of both AI and search, the people who might be more mature in the digital space and the guys you'd expect to be rely less on search, they actually showed increased traditional search activity in this same period. And this isn't just one outlier study either. It's consistent across other research as well. All the big platforms are growing. Ahrefs built a website with live comparison data where they looked at AI versus search traffic. And this is based on almost 50,000 sites over the past 8 months or so. And as you can see, pretty much everyone is growing. Google is growing, ChatGPT is growing, even Bing is growing. The exception is Gemini, Google's AI model, which I would explain by a bit of self-cannibalization from Google. You know, they have this AI model, but they've also released it as part of the Google search in addition to AI mode. So they're doing a lot of things in many spaces, which is why I would think this is the only one shrinking right now. There's a final example. SEMrush ran a massive study and found that ChatGPT users actually increased their Google usage. So users who don't use ChatGPT tended to use Google about 10 times a week. But when those users got introduced to ChatGPT, they started using Google more, 12 times a week. And this study was based on 260 billion rows of clickstream data. So I find it pretty hard to argue with. But this all leads to another question. How can everything be growing at once? Surely the gain of one platform must come at the loss of another, right? Well, the simplest explanation is that we're all spending more time on our screens. I don't have the data to prove that, but it certainly feels true to me. The digitalization is we think of it as something behind us and complete, but it's still ongoing. It's still affecting society. Either way, I hope the takeaway is clear. SEO is not dead, not this time either. As you can see, people tend to say this about our industry every few years, but that hasn't stopped the increase in market value. And actually, here's a fun twist. You know who's investing heavily in SEO right now? ChatGPT. They're actually hiring a content strategist with SEO expertise. And the job listing is also notable because it shows OpenAI's investment in SEO for Google visibility. And the job doesn't even mention LLM visibility. They're focused squarely on SEO. But that doesn't mean nothing has changed either. So what has changed for traditional SEO? Well, one of the biggest shifts that's happened is what's being called the great decoupling, or as some people call it, the crocodile. And here's what that means. For years, impressions and clicks tended to rise and fall together. But now they're drifting apart, largely because of Google introducing AI overviews, this AI-generated response at the top of the search result page. And in practice, this means that you can be visible in search results, you can still get impressions, but you don't necessarily get the click anymore, resulting in this crocodile gap in the Google search result, Google Search Console. Now, some are calling this the end of top funnel content. I don't know if I'd go that far, but there are some things I would agree with. Certain formats like What is X articles and big guides, they're probably not as relevant as they used to be back in the day. And by back in the day, I mean 2 years ago. It's probably more worthwhile to focus on original data and contributing information that can be used for other marketing channels as well. Studies, reports, analysis. What you want to avoid is repackaging the same content without just for the sake of it. Now, there are exceptions, of course. For example, if you run a pants business and suddenly expand into shoes, you'll want to create content around shoes to establish yourself as an authority on both pants and shoes. That still makes sense. But the old way of just churning out endless SEO content without a clear reason, I don't think that makes sense anymore. I don't remember who said this, but I think it's spot on. Marketers will likely look back on 2024 as a peak traffic year. And I think that clicks going down is a reality we're going to have to learn to live with. So what does it mean when clicks are decreasing? I'm going to steal a quote from an industry colleague from Top Dog SEO, Christian Rudolph, who said, clicks are just a proxy for the buyer's journey. Meaning it's not how many people who click on Google that matters. What matters is how many of them actually sign up or convert once they're on your page. And since the clicks are becoming more rare, that also means that the clicks that actually do get through tend to reflect a deeper engagement, meaning users who might be more likely to convert. So SEO is not going anywhere. What does the data tell us about the rise of LLMs? So first, let's put things in perspective. ChatGPT's traffic is still extremely low compared to Google. In fact, ChatGPT only has a little over 1/10 of Bing's traffic share. And that should tell you something. Bing isn't exactly the giant in the room. The reality is that right now, the reach on ChatGPT is still very, very limited. For a large majority, LLMs just aren't a part of the daily life yet. In the US, as of 2025, less than 35% of people had used ChatGPT in the last year. In Sweden, this number was also exactly 34% for 2025. There's a foundation in Sweden called Internetstiftelsen that releases an internet and AI adoption study every year. And if you read between the lines in that study, you might pick up on the fact that there seem to be 3 general responses to AI. 1, you like AI, you're an early adopter, you're digitally mature. 2, you're okay about AI, you indifferent either way, you're fine. 3, you're scared of AI, those who really don't like AI and are worried about what's happening. And I don't think most projection models have taken this last group into account. But that said, that doesn't mean no one is interested. ChatGPT has grown, obviously, for a big reason. And that big reason has always been, like, what's been the most impressive about ChatGPT from a business perspective and a marketing channel perspective is its growth rate, how quickly they grew. This is a visualization done actually by my last employer before I came to BusinessWith, although I had nothing to do with this specifically. But they visualized how quickly different companies reached 100 million users. So for Netflix, it took 10 years. For Facebook, it took 5 years. ChatGPT did it in less than 3 months, which is insane. And that's always been like I said, the most impressive part about ChatGPT. Now, like I mentioned, this presentation is a variation of a talk I did in September at the SEO conference. And since then, a couple of things have changed. I think we all know or have noticed the pace of change has dramatically gone up in the last few years. So let me start by telling you what I said back in September before going into how things have changed since then. So first off, AI referrals seem to deliver conversions, was something I said. It varies by industry and how you define conversion, but some studies have shown surprisingly high performance. For example, Ahrefs did a study that showed that just 0.5% of visitors drove 12% of signups, which is pretty crazy. But it also makes sense when you think about it. If someone is using an AI model to help guide their buying process, by the time they land on your site, they're often ready to act. The second thing I said in September was that going forward, I think there are 2 big questions. 1, can ChatGPT continue to grow at the same pace? And 2, will conversion rates remain this high as usage scales up? Because if the numbers hold, LLMs could be an incredibly valuable traffic source, even if the absolute numbers are still small today. here's what's changed. ChatGPT's growth seems to have plateaued as of Q3 2025. Like I mentioned before, what's been truly impressive about ChatGPT is the growth rate, and all of a sudden, this is what's taken a turn for the first time in history. The number of daily active users have not decreased necessarily, but they have stopped growing at the end of Q3 this year. What this means for the future is too soon to say, but it's definitely noteworthy, and it speaks to the future projection of ChatGPT as a marketing channel. And it kind of speaks to this AI bubble that's been brewing in the media. I think just yesterday, I think Google's CEO said something about the supposed AI bubble. Either way, it's noteworthy. It's a definite change from what we've seen so far. Another thing that's changed is that Google released their AI mode that came to the Nordics in just last month. And if you don't know, AI mode is like an agent mode, AI agent mode, or a version of Google. It's basically looking and acting. It's Google looking and acting very much like ChatGPT. And Google have talked about this as the future of search, which is something many people in my industry saw as the beginning of the end for traditional search. I was personally quite unsure about how AI would reshape the search landscape going forward. And then I saw an independent analysis from the US where AI mode have been live since March of 2025. And the analysis showed that AI mode there is used in just 1% of all searches. 1%, and that's actually fewer than the number of people who click on this news tab in Google search results, which is not exactly Google's hottest tab. And what's even more telling, of those 1%ers, only half of the users who tried AI mode came back to try it again. So sure, Google will keep pushing hard for its AI feature. They have to for competitive reasons. But the numbers clearly show that users aren't exactly lining up eager for more AI-driven products right now. And in the end, it's the number of users that determine the value of any channel or platform. Excuse me for a second. There have also been some interesting studies looking into more into the conversion on ChatGPT versus Google. And the findings have been very inconsistent. You have one finding saying, yes, they convert better than Google. No, they don't. Yes, yes, no. So conversions from AI seem to be very specific to different segments. It's probably best to look in your own data. So you can look at ChatGPT as a traffic source in Google Analytics and compare conversion rates to other marketing channels to evaluate the traffic channel for yourself, because that's what matters for you and your brand, right? Either way, the changes from September to now, just in 2 months, highlights the importance of keeping up with changes as they happen. You also want to look at data relevant to you specifically, because what's changing in the industry might or might not be as relevant to you. This is why you can expect more AI-related findings from BusinessWith moving forward, so we can have an eye on these things for you. Speaking of looking at data relevant to you, LLM tracking. With LLM tracking, I mean ways you can measure how your brand appears in platforms like ChatGPT. There are a bunch of options out there for LLM tracking. You might have come across one or two of these already. Most of these trackers seem to work kind of the same way. They use APIs to ping LLMs with a set of prompts. The main difference is how they measure those results and how they present them. And this can be a bit of a headache to try to dig into, which is why back in September, I created a spreadsheet for AI tracking tools as an AI tracking tool overview. And then what happened was an industry colleague of mine took that and did an updated version just last week. So if you want to deep dive into all the options that's out there, this is a very comprehensive list and overview of the options for trackers out there, which LLM they actually track, and what the price level is. So I get that this is quite a lot to take in, which is also why I want to let you know something interesting on this front. It's clear that LLM visibility is becoming a key part in future discoverability, and we know that your profile and presence on BusinessWith can make a difference there, but the LLM mention space is still very much a black box. It's both hard to monitor and hard to understand, which is why we're currently exploring a solution that would help demystify this for our clients, giving you clear insight into when and how your brand is mentioned in tools like ChatGPT. If this is an area you want better control over and you'd like to help shape what such a solution should look like for BusinessWith, now is the perfect time to share your input. Talk to your customer manager or even give your input in the Q&A of this webinar. And then we have LLM activities, or what you can do to optimize for LLMs. I know this is something we got a lot of questions on before the seminar. So the first and obvious thing that sadly is both the most relevant and not necessarily easy or accessible for everyone is to set up a Wikipedia profile page if you can. Wikipedia is the main source for ChatGPT mentions. Wikipedia does have some pretty stiff rules though, but it's not like a checklist where you have to meet every single criteria. And it's that last one, verifiability, that's the easiest to meet. And if you meet that, you're good to go. And verifiability basically comes down to media coverage. So if there are 2 or 3 independent media articles about you, that should be enough. And it doesn't even need to be about the company. It can be about the founder or the CEO. Just remember to make the tone of the text very non-selling and neutral. Also, it seems that the English market Wikipedia is the best for LLM influence. This is a finding I came across myself when I teamed up with a Swedish LLM tracker and did an analysis of 20,000 Swedish prompts. And same as in other studies, the largest source was, of course, Wikipedia for LLM mentions. But what we found was that out of those mentions, 2/3 of those Wikipedia sources was to the English Wikipedia, and 1/3 was to the Swedish one. This finding was also replicated by an industry colleague of mine from Prague. This is a slide from his presentation at that same SEO conference I spoke at. And he looked at prompts for a local topic, the topic being the Charles Bridge in Prague, very local topic. And he found that LLMs still preferred the English language Wikipedia, even with that topic was local to Prague and local language. My theory why is that LLMs have an easier time processing and interpreting the English language. There also tends to be more content on the internet for the LLMs to process, even on topics related to local markets. So local Wikipedia pages sources matter, but English sources is where you find the big influence. But remember, about 1/3 of the citations were local. So if your brand is present and big enough on multiple markets, set up Wikipedia pages for each market. You can even use BusinessWith as a source for your Wikipedia page. It will help ChatGPT find and mention both reviews on your BusinessWith profile, but also functions and information like that that you probably want ChatGPT to be aware of and have in their dataset. Now, if you want to deep dive and get more into the nitty-gritty on how to do this, I'm sorry to say that it does get a little bit too nitty-gritty for this webinar to cover today, but I wanted to give you something. So here, for those of you who do want to do a deep dive or delegate to someone maybe a bit more nerdy than you, who can deep dive for you, I can recommend a couple of free resources. First, you have the AI Search Manual by Michael King and iPullRank, and the AI Search Content Optimizations, AI Content Optimizations checklist by Aleda. And both Aleda and Michael Kidd are industry heavyweights and know exactly what they're talking about, or they know what they're talking about. And you can find links to these free resources here if you want to check that out. And of course, like I mentioned, you will get both the recording and the presentation itself after this. We also have some upcoming SEO and AI initiatives at BusinessWith that I wanted to share a little bit about what you can expect from us. Just shortly, we have an LLM tracker in the works, like I mentioned. We're also doing an overhaul on your profile pages, the system pages, to better optimize for LLMs. What this means for you is that new data will be requested on your profile to better serve LLMs like ChatGPT and give you more LLM exposure. Expect your customer success manager to talk more to you about that. We're also launching 2 English websites before 2026 to increase both SEO and LLM visibility. So remember when I said it's good to have your content in English for LLMs? What's better than 1 website? 2 websites, right? No, kidding aside. These are 2 websites for 2 different reasons. But what this means for you is that all our content, including your reviews, will be available in English to make them more accessible for ChatGPT. We also have some AI initiatives. First of all, we have an AI navigator, smart search powered by AI, but also an AI recommender to function as a variant of the system guide as it is today, requesting information from users and then evaluate and make top recommendation. And of course, a source of new leads for you guys. So to wrap things up, SEO isn't dead. And despite all the noise, the data shows traditional search is still holding steady, and in some cases even growing. LLMs are on the rise, but not replacing. Usage is climbing, but reach is still relatively small compared to Google. The rules are shifting. What used to work isn't as valuable as it once was. Instead, we have to experiment with new methods and tactics to keep ahead of the curve. It's a shared challenge. Everyone, our competitors included, is navigating the same uncertainty. That means the playing field is more even now than it's been in years. And as to like practical updates and specific things to be aware of, ChatGPT's growth rate seemed to have plateaued as of Q3 2025. Google's AI mode came to the Nordics in October to very modest response from users. AI conversions seem to be very segment specific. Look at data relevant to you. You want to keep up with changes as they happen. And if you have media coverage, set up a Wikipedia profile. BusinessWith have a number of SEO and AI initiatives in the pipeline for Q4 and 2026. That's all I have for you today. If you have questions, please take the time to submit them in the Q&A function for the meeting. And meanwhile, just before we head into the Q&A, I think Henrik has some final things to say before we go there.
Yeah, thank you. So before we go to the Q&A, I want to leave you with a quick actionable framework. This is about what you can do right now to ensure that your solutions and brands are discovered by AI models and optimized for SEO. And the first and quite possibly the most important thing that you can do right now is to keep your reviews fresh within 6 months. AI models prioritize recency, and fresh reviews signals current quality, making you a top reliable recommendations for LLMs. And do not underestimate your BusinessWith profile. Ensure that your profile is complete and accurate, that you clearly state the value of your solution and for whom it works best. So your BusinessWith profile is not a copy and paste marketing space. It's a part of your sales pitch visible in LLMs and AI solutions. And maximize your presence. Be present in all relevant categories and markets where you operate. This maximizes the pathways for both LLMs and search engines to find and understand you. More mentions equals stronger signals. And as a final thing you can do right now is to, of course, embed your award badges on your websites. These function as powerful external trust signals to search engines, in addition to being social proof and trust for your buyers. So these are 4 things you can do right now. So make sure you collect new reviews, have your profiles in clear and direct in their communication, and talk to us to make sure your presence on our sites is aligned with your solution. And of course, with the 2026 coming up shortly, claim those reward badges that are current for the next year. As a last slide, before we go to the questions, of course, we're super happy to have had our sort of premiere debut webinar today. And despite some communication issues, we're already planning our next one. In this upcoming webinar, we will address the key changes identified in BusinessWith's data regarding the modern buying journey. So we will explore how the rise of LLMs has reshaped the digital landscape and specifically what this means for you in how you should treat and nurture leads in 2026. So expect invitations for that webinar in the coming weeks. But I think that's all from the sort of presenting side from us. So we have reached the portion dedicated to the Q&A. And Josef, I saw one question in the Q&A, and I know we got some questions before the webinar, so you can take the reins again.
Yeah, thank you, Henrik. So we got a question from Axel who asked, how does one get the LLM tracking tools comparison sheet? And well, the link is in the presentation, but just for you, Axel, oops, I have copied the link and it should be in the chat now, so you can get a head start. So that's one question answered. And then, like Henrik mentioned, we got some questions beforehand that I thought I could spend a little time with. So one question I got, or we got, was what are the best tools and processes for LLM optimization? Now, tools for LLM optimization is a whole can of worms, and in one way, I'd suggest looking into the link I just shared. But when it comes to process for LLM optimization, I can speak to that. So this was something I very much sat with myself and tried to figure out before the summer. And what I ended up with, I realized that I needed to take a lot of steps back and try to get back to basics, basically. What that meant was stop trying to take everything in. It was just too much to try to stay up to date with everything. And I know I just in this very presentation suggested keeping up with changes, and there's value to that if you have the energy and time. But for me, what I decided to do was just basically put blinders on and say, okay, I'm not going to look at everything. I'm just going to look at one thing, ChatGPT, which, yeah, it's still a big topic to stay ahead of. But that was number one. Limit the scope. Stay with ChatGPT. Don't look at Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, Google, just ChatGPT. Step one. Step two, set up a tracking baseline. So you want to know how you're doing currently and measure what you can. So you can do that with Google Analytics and just seeing the traffic that comes from ChatGPT or whatever platform you choose, and see, okay, how much traffic do we get? How does this traffic convert? And this is your nollmätning, your baseline to work from. Now, step three, try to move the needle, see if you can affect things, right? What are some small non-major activities you can do that might change things slightly, and see if you can affect this number that you're now tracking. I think taking it back to those very, very like basic marketing steps is the best first thing you can do in terms of process for LLM optimization, because then you can start testing and tracking and seeing what works for you, and replicate the success you might find. I hope that answers that question. Now, practical tips for LLM optimization. There are a couple out there. Like I mentioned, I gave you a few resources to deep dive in, but I can speak more broadly when it comes to LLM optimization. Something to keep in mind that people who have worked with SEO for a long time have learned to be aware of, and that is that optimization, just doing optimization by itself, yeah, that's great, but you have to be aware of the possible future consequences of optimization. Right now, AI is it's so much in the early stages that things that work as a manipulation right now, or optimization right now, might later be combined to bite you in the behind. Because there are things that work right now that we at BusinessWith have decided we're not going to do that. That's too skeevy. One example is that I've seen work is to do a top list. So you publish a top list on your website where you of like you and your competitors, and you basically put yourself at number one. That can actually work, and I've seen it work, but you have to be aware that, okay, users are going to see that. How does that affect you? So just because you can optimize a certain way doesn't mean you necessarily should or will, because you can bet that ChatGPT is going to work hard on the relevance of the things that might work today. So you have to be delicate in what ways you try to affect things. But in general, how to practical tips. The first thing is basically, before you even start looking into content you can explore, is or content you can produce or stuff like that. It's to make sure that ChatGPT and LLMs actually can access your website. That might sound basic, but it's not necessarily a given at all. Their robots have to be able to access your site and interpret your content, and it gets very, very technical. Any SEO can solve it for you, any SEO agency or expert, but it's something that you want to make sure you're on top of. So because the alternative is that you do a bunch of LLM activities or optimization, and it doesn't affect things either way, because no robot has access to the things you're trying to affect them with. But assuming you have that in place, I think there's always been a rule in SEO, and I think it holds true for AI too, is that in order to be visible around something, a topic, you have to talk about that topic, right? Top funnel content, editorial content. Now, the trade-off is, of course, that back in the day, and again, back in the day being 2 years ago, basically, back in the day, you could create top funnel content, editorial content, a big article around the topic, and get traffic on that article. Now, that's not necessarily the case anymore. Google and ChatGPT will crawl that, scrape that, and repackage that, and you might be mentioned, you might not be mentioned. That's a risk you're going to have to take if you decide to take this route. So what I would do is basically do a cost-benefit analysis of maybe trying this out. Again, set up the measurement first so you can actually measure the result, and then try doing an article or two and seeing, okay, do I even reach Google and ChatGPT with this? Yes, no. And if you do, does that bring value to me? Does the traffic increase? No. But the traffic didn't increase, but the conversions might have. So it's all, you're going to have to take things in steps and measure things along the way. We're all relearning this whole landscape. And like I said, this is, as a marketing channel, I view ChatGPT and LLMs more as a source of potential and potential future rather than somewhere that delivers value today. So that's something you have to take into account as well. I hope that answers that question. I think those are all the questions we have right now. Please, if you want me to answer anything else, you can. Now's the time to ask something in the Q&A. Otherwise, I think we might wrap things up.
Yeah, so efficient, ahead of time and under schedule. But thank you everyone for attending. It's been our first webinar. We hope this was an interesting topic to you. We would love to discuss more about it with you. So reach out to us if you have any questions or concerns, and we will get back to you with the recording, with all the material. And as you can see, you can connect with Josef on LinkedIn to learn more. You don't need to connect with me because you won't learn anything else. So we hope to have the invite for our upcoming webinar out in a few weeks. So hope to see you there. Thank you all for today.
Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.